it was reported yesterday you won't be throwing your hat in the ring, essentially because you don't want to leave where you are at the moment. Is that accurate? And what does that mean for any future prospects of the lower house? Would it just have to be the right location?
Well, Tom, look, I'm really happy what I'm doing. I love Central Queensland. I fight pretty hard for the region. Proud to be a senator for Queensland. And look, this came on pretty suddenly last week. There was a sudden decision of John to leave to look after his wife. And I used to live in Toowoomba down the road, so I know some people down there, and some suggested maybe I should think about it, and I did. But look, I'm a pretty loyal person, and there's so much going on up in CQ, so I didn't want to leave. In terms of my future, mate, look, I don't know. You can't predict your future. I didn't think I'd ever be standing here talking to you 10 years ago, not my wildest dreams. So look, we'll see what happens, but I got no complaints. I love what I do, and as I say, there's lots to get on and do.
But we all know the lure of the lower house. Is that something that you think about from time to time and where you imagine you might end up?
Tom, this is going to sound really trite and you might not believe it, but I do this, I decided to do this because I think I can help achieve things for our country and for our nation. Look, to do that, obviously, you try and put yourself in a position of influence, but there's lots of different ways you can do that. And as I say, I never thought I'd be a senator for Queensland. That was not in my life plans growing up as a kid in Logan. It wasn't even sort of a possibility. So I kind of approached this thinking, well, I'm really happy that I got to where I am. I got a lot to do. There's lots of industries to protect, like the coal-fired power station behind me. That feeds the aluminium smelter here in Gladstone. I want to keep that going. I want to open up the Galilee Basin more and get more coal mining exports so we can have more jobs and more wealth for our nation. And I'll just keep every day fighting for those things.
I did notice that framing and suspect that it wasn't an accident on the power station there.
Yeah, I just pulled up on the side of the road, Tom.
And on the issue, though, of influence, I mean, there's no bigger influence than lower house and possible leadership positions. That must be something that's in the back of your mind.
Look, that's always a decision of your colleagues, though, right? So, I think it's a bit like when you play footy or something. And I used to play cricket, and if you want to get picked in the side, you want to be kicked in the side, and I always wanted to be captain. What do you got to do? You got to score runs. You got to take wickets, and then you'll get picked. And same thing in politics. It's everybody would like to obviously get themselves into that area of influence, but how do you achieve that? By scoring runs, by getting results for people that you represent. So, that's what I'm focused on doing, and the rest of it will take care of itself.
Isn't that harder to do, though, no longer being a cabinet minister? How do you reflect on that decision now? Any regrets?
Look, in some respects, Tom, I think I've achieved almost as much in the last few months. Look, you've all got, it's a different role being a senator compared to a cabinet minister, but I fought hard to make sure we didn't appeal the live cattle decision. That's going to be something like a $500 million boost to Northern Australia and to the cattle industry. I'm proud of that. I fought hard to stand up for those that want to quit the smokes and take up vaping products, and we made a bit of an impact there, along with the help and support of many of my colleagues. I'm not sitting around on the couch watching Netflix. There's lots of things to do, and you can still get results in a role as a senator. So I've actually enjoyed. I've loved the last few months, and I'm excited about the future.
There was the infamous incident where you were trying to, get your way, if you like, on coal-fired power in Australia and seemingly having no influence with Prime Minister Scott Morrison when you were a cabinet minister. Do you feel as though you can almost get more done as an outspoken backbencher?
Look, as I say, it's different, and I suppose the big difference from a public perspective is people see your actions a little bit more behind the scenes, or more is done behind the scenes in cabinet, but you can have influence in both realms. So I do think from a Nationals Party perspective, we no longer have a minister in the Nationals Party in the Senate, and that has freed us up a bit. And I actually do very much like that model. There is something to be said for the fact that perhaps senators shouldn't be ministers, because it's meant to be a chamber of review. And so when the executive is located in the Senate, it does dilute that role to some degree. Whereas on issues like live cattle in recent times, like representation of seats in the Northern Territory, where I'm fighting with Sam McMahon for that, we can act as a group and forcefully defend the interests of regional Australians, of country Australians, which is what we're there to do.
All right. Another opinion you've had is to do with energy. I just want to go back to your time as Resources Minister, though. So your focus on gas included the GSOO, that was a report calling for more domestic gas development. There was the National Gas Reservation Policy you announced as well. There was the gas security mechanism to make sure we had enough domestic gas currently. You had a big focus on gas to form a big part of our energy future.
Absolutely, it needs to. There are many applications, many manufacturing processes that rely on gas. Without gas, you won't have a petrochemical industry, and we've got some of that in Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane as well, with the fertiliser factory there at Incitec Pivot at Gibsons Island. I want to keep those facilities and keep those jobs. However, of course, there's a lot of other manufacturing processes which don't require a specific type of fuel. We're going to do better if we just have the most affordable fuels for those applications. And I consistently said when I was Resources Minister, you can go back and look at my speeches, that gas prices are high, or relatively high in Australia, because our costs of production are high. That's what the ACCC says. It's not me, it's the ACCC estimates. On the world stage, we've got relatively high costs of production. No matter what we do, no matter export restrictions, promoting new basins, you cannot have a long-term price below the cost of production here, because of course people won't drill if the price is below what it costs for them to do that.
That's true, but you focused a lot on the coal
challenge
seam
for our
gas
country.
Price of things on the East Coast. What one of your policies was. Sorry, just saying that a lot of your focus, and in some of these speeches you spoke about that relatively high cost when you factor in coal seam gas on the East Coast. Now, what the government's been talking about in its technology roadmap, and what you spoke about as well, was more domestic gas being developed. Couldn't that be at lower cost and be a huge part of our energy future? I mean, doesn't that plan the government unveiled actually continue a lot on what you were talking about?
It could be, and I fully support that. That's something I've spoken many times about, and we need to do that. We also need to recognise that we're a big country, and if we find a lucrative oil and gas field in the Northern Territory at the Beetaloo Basin, which I'm very hopeful about us doing, and fully support us developing that, that will not necessarily solve the energy problems of Melbourne and Sydney, because it will cost something like $3 to $4 a gigajoule to transport that gas from the Beetaloo Basin down to southern Australia. Now, just to put that in context, that's the price, that's the end price that gas is sold for in the US today. So the transport costs alone from the Northern Territory to get from one part of our continent to other could be the price we're trying to hit to be competitive on gas on the world stage. That's just the challenge we've got. As I say, we're a big, big country, and I don't think we're going to end in a world where there is one magical fuel type which will solve all our problems. We should be looking at horses for courses, and when we've got excellent, world-class coal resources, let's use those too.
Matt Canavan, appreciate your time today.